Anarchy.
Though they may have started out with good intentions and even good ideas, the AAA sector of the video game industry more often than not seems more interested in broad market appeal than any real innovation, and so good ideas are often pared down into something that even the most unsophisticated idiot, or someone who has more dollars than sense, can get into. Thus we have the most boring games list for 2017. Games that are generally inoffensive, and are usually quite functional, but do absolutely nothing to move the medium forward in any way. Number 10. Fortnite. Although I still come back to playing this from time to time, and despite the fact that Epic Games continues to update, patch, and improve this game, I still find playing it to be a bit of a chore, especially if I'm not playing with a group of friends. Otherwise, I find trying to grind through the many mid-game missions solo to be horribly tedious. Though this game will only skirt at number 10 due to the fact that, as I said before, I do like that they're still trying to do different things with the game. So perhaps in later updates or patches, this might become a lot more fun. But as it stands, right now it's really quite dull. Number 9. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Now, after putting out a full-priced game for the first time that was nothing but an ultra-bland multiplayer experience due to trying to rush a game out, EA should have made damn sure to put out a vastly improved second game. And although we got an actual story campaign this time instead of just a collection of badly optimized arcade levels, the story's main plot point makes no real sense, and all but one of the characters are very black and white. On top of that disappointment, the multiplayer went from being merely bland to being completely unbalanced. If it weren't for the fact I like the space battles, this would have landed a lot higher than 9. Number 8. Victor Vran. I certainly like games that are Diablo-esque, or that are in fact Diablo, but while amusing at first, Victor Vran turns out to be a very generic dungeon crawler indeed. And given that Xbox has given away all 3 of the Van Helsing games, which are superior to this overpriced slog, it makes it all the more damning. And this is something of a personal gripe, but they got the guy who voiced Geralt from The Witcher to voice Victor Vran, who is, of course, a monster hunter, cause I guess that actor just screams Monster Hunter. And all that made me want to do is quit playing this and boot up The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and play that instead. Number 7. Ghost Recon Wildlands. Now, Paul and I played a lot of this game, but the more I try to think back to this game, the more the whole thing just kind of runs together. Ubisoft has continued their slide into turning all of their quote-unquote sandbox games into just about all of the same experience. Playing alone was too fucking easy. You have 3 support characters who you can mark out 3 other targets, press a magic button and pow, 3 dead guys. And all you had to do was sit there on your fat ass looking through your binoculars. The game grew a few more teeth when I'd play it with Paul, because the game would take away our AI partners, and we would have to coordinate more to complete objectives. And the Fallen Ghost DLC added a bit more challenge to that, but overall the game doesn't innovate in any way, shape, or form. And for the sandbox medium, that's kind of a dangerous thing not to do. Especially if you want your game to stand out amongst all the other open world games that are on the market today. Number 6. Battle Chasers Night War. It has been a while since I've seen a full box release of a game that was reminiscent of old Final Fantasy games. And even though I haven't played any turn-based combat games in a long time, I thought what the hell and gave it a go. Things started promising when I was really into the opening intro. It was pretty entertaining, and I found myself not too horribly down on the characters. I was even enjoying the battles and exploring the first few dungeons. And then 5 hours in, nothing had changed. And I found that the battles with enemies so far below me they'd have to be dug for, and exploring the levels that just had nothing to offer other than more battles, to be a little bit taxing. I think I might have liked this game more if I hadn't played Final Fantasy 15. This game was just a little bit too much of a slog to be fun. Number 5. Dishonored, Death of the Outsider. You can call me Blake the Biased on this one, but I really don't have a good opinion of any of the Dishonored games. But I was able to get through the other 2, just on the basis that I kind of wanted to see how the story played out. The trouble with this one is that albeit the premise of the story is right there in the subtitle, there's little effort given as to why the outsider must die. It's a character that most of the people in the game's world don't even believe in or think exist. And I don't know about anyone else, but we're dealing with characters from the first game and a bit of the DLCs from the first game. And I don't really care to see any more of these people. Besides, this is essentially being Dishonored 2.5 means very little in the way of any real gameplay changes. Number 4, Portal Knights. Imagine a Minecraft-style game that had a better combat system, then forgot to add absolutely anything else that made Minecraft interesting. In the entire time I played this game, it was like I was only playing a slightly altered version of every other level that you had just played in this fucking game. In fact, this game had so little going for it, this is really all I could come up with. There's nothing to it. Number 3, Destiny 2. This game is narrowly avoiding my bad games list for the fact that I actually got to the end of it, and it should thank its lucky stars that I had Katie there to get me through it. I got so tired of the almost non-plot that feels like it could have been pulled from an old Transformers episode that I started playing with the sound off, just so I wouldn't have to listen to all the characters witter on about the same Doom Earth plot we've all heard 100 times before. And this game only furthers why I stay far away from any game that even has MMO-like tendencies. It seems most of the game's replayability is in raids, PvP, and a lot of post-game nonsense, all of which I couldn't care 1 ounce of shit about. A few weeks after the game's release, I listened to a coworker drone on about the post-story content that I'd outright stop him from talking or risk falling asleep out of sheer boredom and maiming myself on a mixing bowl. Number 2, Agents of Mayhem. Saints Row ended in an absolute over-the-top fashion. So what did Volition do to follow up a game series that started out as a GTA knockoff and finished as out there as Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Apparently the answer was not to make a generic Crackdown knockoff. The game's biggest selling point, as far as I could tell, was its cast of quirky characters, all of whom have exactly one quirk to their character, and they play it up as much as possible, and the humor starts to wear thin fast. Something that really made the main character in Saints Row stand out is the fact that you had some control over how they looked and sounded, not to mention his cast of supporting characters that made the player's character all the more charming. Also, the missions themselves had some variety to them. In Agents of Mayhem, you basically do the same 3 activities in the same 3 places over and over and over again. I can't really wait to see what Volition does next, and I'm hoping this was just a stumble off course and not a sign of what's to come. Number 1, Dungeon Defenders 2. Dungeon Defenders was an acclaimed downloadable indie game from the last generation of consoles, combining elements of co-op tower defense, RPG elements, and a light cartoony vibe that, despite the kid-friendly visuals, never let the challenge dip. A sequel promising more of an improved version of this game sounded like a great thing to me. Then it was released as a mobile game, riddled with pay-to-win, and an entire hub area that is nothing but a place to try to flog you for useless shit as microtransactions. As where the first game, each hero was distinct in the traps they could build and their personal special abilities, in Dungeon Defenders 2, every character that you didn't have to pay for is virtually identical, with just different looking towers that all do essentially the same thing. I almost can't describe the level of disappointment I felt upon playing this. It's functional, and the game I once loved is in here, but it's all buried under so much greed and bullshit that the game, even though it's free, isn't worth wasting your hard drive space on.